If we all abandon the academy, this entire village will fall into ruin. Lenia's hands frosted over as she created a barrier of ice. They aren't times like Time's hounds, you idiot, she said coldly. They times are Time's hounds. Hearing this, Heinous instantly flared up. I know that! They just keep coming, so why is he fighting so slowly? Hey, what's all this about a hunt? Lenia replied. A hunt, you say? She strode forward, baffling Hennis. What are you doing? Are you insane? The moment the monsters spotted her, they lunged. The students screamed in terror. Lenia Sunbei! But their fear was premature. In a flash, she froze the entire pack solid, leaving everyone staring in stunned silence. With the task complete, she turned back and said, There, I've gathered them all for you. Now, finish them. Heinous refused, pointing a finger. Then why don't you kill them yourself? Lenia simply shrugged. I don't want to. Besides, I just used up all my mana. Hennis yelled at her. Are you an idiot, Sunbei? Unfazed, Lenia simply stated, But I'm the one who gathered them. Left with no other choice, Henny steeled herself. Seriously, how can a third circle mage like me possibly wipe out this many? However, if I layer multiple first circle spells, that's another story entirely. She began to chant a strange, arcane incantation. Coordinates locked. Rings of fire erupted into blazing orbs, instantly incinerating the monsters and turning them to ash. Heinous collapsed to the ground, exhausted. Damn it, there were so many. But Lenia was already starting to tease her. I gathered them all for you, and you still couldn't take them all out? Henny snapped back. Shut up! It's not like they were just standing still. Suddenly, B appeared before them, sending a monster flying with a single punch. You two take a moment to recover your mana. I'll handle things from here. Hennis scoffed, showing off now after doing nothing this whole time. Hearing his master insulted, B's disciple immediately objected. What are you talking about? Our master was observing from the rear so you all could focus. Master, please rest. Your disciple will handle the rest. In a flash, a far stronger monster appeared, sending the disciple flying. I couldn't even sense its approach. Such clean technique, incredible speed, and this power. The monster took on a humanoid form. It seemed it had just devoured someone. The two warriors clashed, fists meeting in a thunderous impact. B instantly realized this was another Stos. He understood everything the moment he locked arms with the demon. This incredible striking power, this colossal amount of mana. It was the strength of a perfect Stos. Before he could react, the demon lunged forward, aiming for a finishing blow. He poured every last drop of his energy into his defense, but it was useless against the creature's overwhelming power. The crushing difference in their strength was enough to inspire true despair. Finally, B could no longer hold his ground. A single, devastating strike sent him reeling as he coughed up a pool of crimson blood. That one blow had brought him to the brink of death. The battle seemed all but decided, but with his unbreakable will, B glared towards the heavens and roared, Astos never retreats. The demon, however, had no patience for such dramatic theatrics. It lunged, intending to send B to his grave. But B wasn't finished. His transformation now complete, he was ready to stake his life on one final clash. Just as his sacrifice seemed inevitable, a voice rang out. Stand back! A beautiful woman appeared, effortlessly blocking both their attacks. B stared in disbelief. Claymon? Hearing her name, Clay's worry turned to fury as she snapped. That's times Professor Clay times to you. Her eyes blazed as she glared at B. You useless fool, she scolded, poking his solid chest several times for emphasis. Clay's voice softened with frustration. You must always make the correct judgment call. Otherwise, sheer will alone will only lead to a far more tragic end. Turning around, Clay asked the two students if they were all right. Fortunately, there were no significant injuries. Unfortunately, Clay's attack had no effect on the demon. In fact, it seemed even stronger now, as its severed body parts began to regenerate instantly. Seeing this, however, Clay didn't seem the least bit concerned. She calmly reassured her students, It's just multiplying, don't be afraid. A confident smirk appeared on her face. For someone at my level, a monster like this is a piece of cake. Just then, Daniel appeared out of nowhere, asking if everyone was okay. His sudden interruption clearly annoyed Clay. Hennis, her face pale with fright, urged Daniel to go check on the others. Daniel couldn't bear to see his favorite student so distraught. He quickly reassured her. The Black Wolf Knights have arrived at the academy. Everything is going to be all right now. He looked at Hennis with an affectionate gaze, thanking her group for protecting the citizens. He promised that he and the other elites would take full responsibility from here on out. Suddenly, a man approached, his sword dripping with monster viscera. "Hold on, Daniel. Who was this?" It was Levin Edel, captain of the Black Wolf Knights. He spoke in an icy tone. "These are nothing but low-level beasts. Surely you didn't summon the Black Wolf Knights for this mere chimeric dragon, did you?" Daniel's expression remained neutral. "The primary chimeric dragon variant is at another location. These are merely the pawns it unleashed along the way." Levin turned to leave, clearly disappointed. "Just try not to leave such a mess next time. He has arrived. This is about more than just killing some royal mutts. The very honor of the imperial family is on the line." If he hadn't seen the chameleon dragon's true form with his own eyes. Suddenly, Lion lunged forward, his gaze locking with Levin's. "The situation is dire, and you're being careless with our honor?" As Leon's blade swung, splattering blood across his face, Levin's vision went red with fury. Before a curse could escape his lips, Leon contemptuously shoved past him. "Get out of the way. You're blocking my path." Levin ground his teeth, his hand itching to strike. He grabbed Leon, pulling him back forcefully. Daniel's eyes narrowed into a dangerous warning. "Don't you touch my student," as he said. "We are out of time." At those words, Levin reluctantly released Leon. "Fine. But once this is over, you had all better be prepared." He spun around, commanding the soldiers with a roar. "All units, engage. Annihilate everything in your path. Professor, what's the status on the wounded? Move anyone out of Mana to the shelters now." An explosion suddenly erupted from the North Tower, from the headmaster's office. As everyone searched for the source, a second blast left them completely shell-shocked. Lion could only think to himself, "Rudd, what in the world did you do to cause a blast that massive?" Meanwhile, Rude was locked in a life-or-death struggle with the chameleon dragon. His last devastating attack had nearly pierced the monster's defenses. Rudd panted heavily, cursing the single blow that had gone astray. Lightning Piercer, a technique that accelerates his blade into a bolt of lightning, focused on one fatal point. Lacking the internal energy of a master like Professor Arthur, Rude had to channel the very soul of thunder instead. But the cost was immense, consuming half of his celestial mana. He thought, "I need to refine this, to unleash its true, destructive potential." Tormented and broken, the chameleon dragon collapsed, letting out a pained roar. It was unthinkable that it would die at the hands of a human, a species it considered utterly inferior. Watching Rudd's terrifying silhouette slowly advance, a primal fear shot down the creature's spine. It told itself it had to recover, and fast. To do that, it needed to devour something. Anything. Rudd stepped forward, sword in hand, his voice cold as steel. "No matter how much you resent this reality, your life ends here." Without another word, he unleashed his final strike. In that moment, the beast was completely helpless, unable to dodge the killing blow. Its life flashed before its eyes like a film. It didn't want to die. Not yet. Boom! A massive explosion threw Rudd back 2 meters. The blast left Rudd severely wounded. Nearby, a tattered Graham spoke with conviction. "I will protect you, at any cost, my Damien." But as the emotional moment swelled, a man descended from the sky with a sigh. "Are you still not finished with this?" His inner thought was dripping with disdain. How utterly foolish. "Damien," his hoarse voice echoed. Graham stared at the figure known as Demon San, his expression grim. Graham fell to one knee, his voice trembling. I will protect you. I will do whatever you command." Graham reached out, his hand touching Demon San's soft, pale cheek. With a face full of sorrow, Tears began to well in the demon's eyes. As Graham's large, rough hand gently caressed its face, the tears began to flow in streams. The demon's small mouth trembled. "Oh, you." It raised a hand, showing off its impeccably manicured nails as its sobs twisted into a vile, wicked smile. And in an instant, the pathetic act was over. Demon Sand sank its fangs into Graham's muscular arm, blood spraying like juice from a melon. It then offered him one final, enlightening remark. "Foolish humans." The scene shifts, where a powerful blow lands squarely on an enemy's cursing mouth. "Die!" The clash of power from both sides sent a massive shockwave through the area. The foul mouth continued to spit venom, even as they traded earth-shattering blows. "You pathetic failure. You're just delaying your inevitable end." On the other side of the battlefield, Demon Sand had completely devoured Graham from head to toe. Demon Sand's appearance had undergone a radical transformation. It now stood taller, its power radiating with terrifying intensity. After its meal, it smugly stroked its own head. "You just walked right into my mouth." Demon Sand covered its face, its long, slender fingers tracing its now perfectly symmetrical features. Its hair billowed in the wind as a single thought echoed in its mind. How refreshing. It's been centuries. And yet, humans are still just as stupid. This body is immortal, but I'm still missing something. Something easier to eat, tastier, and fresher. The demon's internal monologue ended as its gaze fell upon the distant, wounded Rudd. Rudd clutched his head, his teeth clenched tight. "I'm going to lose my mind." He tried to ignore the searing pain, forcing himself to stand and fight on. Retreat? No. I've already finished what I came here to do. You can feel that you've already lost, can't you? Rudd stood tall as Demon Sand charged him like a ravenous tiger, unleashing a torrent of magic. Rudd swiftly dodged to the side. "Attacking me barehanded? You think you're better now that you've had a snack?" Rudd gritted his teeth, raising an arm to defend while desperately analyzing the attack. This assault was simpler, yet felt far more overwhelming. The wound from before had drastically widened the gap in their power. Demon Sand's attack tore through Rudd's guard, shattering his train of thought. Rudd coughed up blood, frowning as he swung his sword in retaliation, his mind still lost in a haze of calculations. Let me rephrase that. If I only had the physical strength, I would have won. Rudd stared at the overwhelmingly powerful Demon Sand, unable to escape a single, crushing thought. "I'm finished. It would be so much easier if my body was at its peak, if I had the power from my past life, if it were my brother standing here instead of me." The familiar silhouette of his brother, the one he had always envied, flashed through Rudd's mind. But with a hardened face, he shattered those thoughts. "I'm just making pathetic excuses." Rudd's hand tightened on his sword's hilt. He roared, pouring every last ounce of his strength into a single, decisive strike against the demon. As the attack closed in, the demon suddenly faltered, swallowing hard. So what? In speed or raw power, this body is superior. The demon dodged, but the blow still connected. Now, true panic began to set in. Then why is my body the one being torn to shreds? Rudd's eyes widened, blood vessels bulging. I get it now. He remembered Leon's words. "Rude Donatos, you rely far too much on your senses. Can you stop depending on your eyes and try to see beyond that? I'm not a genius like you. I wasn't born with incredible physical strength, and the environment I grew up in was nothing but trash," Rudd thought to himself while dodging the demon's relentless assault. His eyes darted back and forth, desperately tracking the flurry of attacks. Back then, I couldn't see the tension and release of muscles, the force and direction of mana flow, the subconscious habits, the center of gravity. This must be what Leon was trying to tell me. It wasn't about speed or movement, it was about the method. Rudd gripped his hilt. A powerful current of mana surged through the blade. Seizing the opportunity, he once again swung his sword with all his might. A single thrust pierced the demon's abdomen, causing it to cry out in agony. Rudd's entire body tensed. It feels like every muscle in my body is being ripped apart. I've already reached my limit. The demon commanded its chains to attack. They shot toward Rudd, even as his body was about to collapse. But Rudd's grip on his sword never loosened. His gaze was firm, refusing to surrender. As long as I have the strength to hold a blade. He charged through the magical chains to close the distance. Blood sprayed, dyeing his sword crimson. I did it this time. The thought surfaced as his sword plunged into the demon's chest. His hate-filled eyes were locked onto the creature as it coughed up blood in torment. Rudd didn't pull the sword out. Instead, he dragged the blade down its body, intent on splitting it in two. The demon's screech was ear-splitting. It felt like the sound could tear the very air apart. Rudd snapped back to reality, realizing something. His sword was now stained with the demon's blood. The seal on his right hand emitted a faint glow. With his sword pinned to the demon's neck, the creature finally fell silent. Rudd froze, completely spent. His divine mana had hit rock bottom. Just then, the group of 4 arrived at the scene. Leon panted, her eyes scanning the area for Rudd. There, to the north, that has to be him. Her eyes widened at the sight before her. Rudd seemed to notice Leon's arrival as well. Leon stared at Rudd and the fallen demon, whispering his name. Meanwhile, at the royal palace, the plague from a decade ago had returned. The one responsible was a professor from Artium. The Emperor's voice boomed from his throne. Jode Graham, the headmaster of Artium, has committed treason. His grandson, Damian Gray, will be executed immediately. A minister spoke up. Ren, who was instrumental in the Myriad dragon incident, was quite insistent. He should be released by now. Another official objected. But, Your Majesty, they endangered the entire nation. The Emperor's face darkened at his words as he declared, "This discussion is over. They should first listen to the one who defeated the Myriad dragon," the Grand Master announced as he entered the chamber. "I came to tell you that you're about to be summoned, and you two are still flirting in the infirmary." Leon was diligently feeding Rudd, who was pushing her away with a look of complete disgust. She blushed and covered her cheeks, saying they were just getting started. Rudd shot back with a deadpan expression. "Are you blind?" The master glared. "How dare you two flaunt your affection in front of me?" he snapped. "Whatever. You, get out. I need to speak with him." Leon hopped off the bed and replied, "I was about to leave anyway." But before she left, she turned back to ask, "1 month of rest, right?" Seeing this, the master couldn't help but tease him. "You're still full of energy, huh?" An embarrassed Rudd snapped back. "It's not like that." Outside, Leon could hear the two of them arguing back and forth. "I was thinking of finding a new student, since my current one has been asleep for 3 straight days." How could the Grandmaster say that to someone who's only been his student for 4 weeks? Leon, standing outside, wasn't sure if she overheard, lost in her own thoughts. It can't be helped. I was weak, scared, and foolish. Calling myself his colleague. How pathetic. Next time, you idiot. The scene shifts back to Rudd's hospital room. The Grandmaster sat properly in his chair, speaking calmly. Even when things are going smoothly, you must prioritize taking care of yourself. Trying to save both of them at the same time, Rudd said while eating an apple. Leon just answered vaguely. It was nothing, but thinking back, it was for the best, because it was one of the 7 dragons the Grandmaster heard. He stammered, unsure of what to say next. In any case, what he meant was, "Well done, Rut. You did a fantastic job." He then ruffled Rut's hair, much to his utter annoyance and resistance. Rut pushed him away, asking, "Are you sick, Grandmaster?" The man was a bit offended by that. "Is that how you act when I'm being nice for a change?" Rut immediately shot back. "Just think about how you treat me on a daily basis," he thought to himself. "In my past life, he treated me like I was invisible." The Grandmaster didn't bother arguing. He leaned back into his chair and let out a long, weary sigh. "If you acted like that in front of the royal family, your head wouldn't be on your shoulders for long, you know that?" Rut replied calmly. "I'm not crazy enough to do that," the Grandmaster declared with certainty. "Oh yes, you are. Almost every way is difficult. Gerard, Damien, those two have crossed the line." Rut's face remained impassive as he replied, "I know. That's why I'm going to cross it too." The line they already passed. The scene shifts to 4 weeks later. Rut sits in a carriage, lost in a storm of thoughts. Slaying it was. Slaying the Dragon was mostly luck. Besides, it was only a fragment. That wasn't entirely my own power. It was the blood of Danath, but it still can't compare to my brother's battle against the Lightning Flash Dragon. That's why my brother is the one they call a hero. Just then, the carriage came to a stop. It was time for Rut to step out. He had arrived at the royal palace. The guard at the gate saw him and announced, "Lord Rut Donatos." The guard then began to escort him inside. Rut looked at the palace thoughtfully. He mused, "It's been a while, royal palace." The Spirit King then asked, "Koa, you've come?" Rut answered with a calm indifference, "This isn't my first time here. I witnessed the very beginning of this empire, and saw this palace's completion with my own 2 eyes." The Spirit King replied, "Ah, I see. He wanted to know why they had summoned him here." Rut answered, "It could be an investigation into the 7 Calamity Dragons, or a reward for my victory. I'm really hoping it's the latter." They soon arrived at their destination, where 2 finely dressed servants stood before a door. They bowed deeply and invited him in. When he opened the door, he saw the Crown Prince and everyone else already waiting. He saw them all. The heads of every guild. They're all here. This is a meeting about the 7 Calamity Dragons, isn't it? Actually, that's even better. The man seated on the throne was the heir to the Apian Empire, Gim Basti, the ruler of Appia. The Basti family are descendants of the hero. The hero Banna's full name was Banna Basti. There's a story, a famous fairy tale that says he was originally a nameless commoner, granted his family name after becoming an esteemed guest. At that moment, Rut bowed respectfully to the Crown Prince. "It is an honor to be in your presence, Your Highness." Gim gave the order. "Raise your head, Rados. You already know why you've been summoned here, don't you?" He praised him for breaking the seal and destroying the last Dragon Lord, the Dragon Kin, defeating the Dragon without a single injury, and at such a young age. Hearing the praise, Rut humbly replied, "You are too kind, Your Highness. If it weren't for the professors and cadets stopping the Dragon from splitting, I would have never succeeded. My only duty was to do what was necessary." Hearing this, Gim burst out laughing. "He's humble, too." Beside him, the Grandmaster wore a sour, resentful expression. Gim continued, "The royal family would be shamed if we failed to reward the hero who slayed the Dragon. Is there anything you desire?" Rut was quick to answer, "If that is the case, may I request one thing? Damian Gray and Gerard Graham. I wish for them to be pardoned from the death penalty." Hearing this, the guild leaders stood with their mouths agape. The Crown Prince was at a loss for words. Suddenly, someone spoke up. How utterly absurd. It was the prince's closest aide. He continued his tirade. "Death is too good for the 2 of them. To save the very people who brought back the Dragon." Those are the words of someone who knows nothing of the 7 Calamity Dragons. Seeing his aide's extreme reaction, the Crown Prince gestured for him to be silent. Then he spoke slowly. "Rut Donatos, I understand your sentiment, but, no matter how much you wish for it, commuting their sentences is simply impossible." Hearing this, Rut simply replied, "I understand." He knew deep down it was a long shot. The empire was too chaotic, and ordinary methods would be useless. Then, he proposed another idea. "What about this?" he asked, pulling something from his leather pouch. Inside was a seal, the seal of the Thunderflash Dragon. The words stunned everyone into silence. Hamal, the Thunderflash Dragon, was one of the 7 dragons. Though not a true dragon, it was still considered part of the Dragon clan. It was the only one capable of shapeshifting, and was incredibly powerful. Cunning enough to retreat without hesitation at a disadvantage, only to plot its revenge. In his past life, many dragon slayers lost their lives fighting it. Thanks to the combined efforts of his brother and their allies, it was finally vanquished. No one needed to witness its power firsthand. They already knew the catastrophic danger sealed within this stone. When he snapped back to reality, the points of a dozen weapons were aimed straight at him. The aide's fear had twisted into rage. He screamed that they had to kill him now, that the man was carrying something as deadly as a bomb. Gim's expression shifted, turning impossibly cold. The young man on the throne commanded, "All of you, lower your weapons." In unison, they protested, "Your Majesty!" Seeing their hesitation, Gim ignored his men and fixed his gaze on the intruder. "The Thunderworm's sealing stone. Where did you find it? And what do you plan to do with it?" Rot answered plainly, "I found it within Artyom's treasury. I don't know why it was mixed in with their riches, but I hope it will aid my petition." Gim scoffed. A petition? It seemed he was being threatened, but Rot remained unfazed by the accusation. "If that were my goal, I would never have brought it here in the first place." His words left everyone confused, their gazes shifting towards him. Rot continued, "You can see for yourself. This sealing stone is incredibly fragile. In fact, it could shatter into 1,000,000 pieces at any moment." The stone was passed to Lian for inspection. As she held it, a worried look crossed her face. "This kid, he's not bluffing. I've never seen anything like it, but it's dangerously unstable. The seal will break, and soon. If we're not careful, this will blow up in our faces, with consequences we can't possibly imagine." But Rot cut her off before she could finish. He turned back to Gim, his voice unwavering. "And that is my petition. Since this seal is destined to break anyway, we should be prepared." Gim was skeptical. "Prepared how?" Rot heard him and continued, "I will slay the Thunderworm. Then, I will eliminate the Mystic Dragon and the Ice Dragon, followed by the Martial Dragon and the Illusion Dragon. After I have culled the 7 dragons, I will slaughter every last dragon that remains." He spoke with absolute, unshakable certainty. A stunned silence consumed the entire chamber. The Crown Prince's aide was the first to speak, his voice dripping with scorn. "Slaughter dragons? Who do you think you are? The legendary Dragon Slayer? Just because you nearly killed one worm, you've grown arrogant. You have no idea what true terror they represent." Rot ignored the mockery, his question cutting through the noise like a blade. "Are you afraid?" The aide's face flushed with fury. "What did you just say?" As if the man couldn't believe his own ears, Rot pressed on. "You're so terrified you can't do anything, except sit here and wait for death. Isn't that right?" "How dare you?" the aide roared, his anger boiling over. Gim silenced him with a single gesture. "There must be a reason for such confidence, correct? Even the great Benna couldn't exterminate the dragons. He could only seal the 7 and drive the rest back to the northern mountains. And 10 years later, the Myriad Forms dragon laid waste to the entire southern continent. The Thunderworm is even more ferocious. Do you truly believe that as his student, you can succeed where your master failed?" A slight smile touched Rot's lips before he answered. "Of course. I cannot slay it alone. For this to succeed, I require 2 things. First, I need a specific space to lure the dragon into." Gim questioned, intrigued. "A space?" Rot explained his thinking. "The only way to fight the Thunderworm without catastrophic sacrifice is to draw it into a location controlled by spatial magic. And, as it happens, we have such a master right here in this kingdom, do we not?" Lian realized who he meant. "Iris, the master of the Ivory Tower, huh?" Rot continued to lay out his strategy. "We will end the Thunderworm there. Our preparation time will be roughly 1.5 years, which should be sufficient. Second, aside from your Majesty, every art user present must participate. However, bringing an entire army would only lead to pointless casualties. It would be a detriment, not a benefit, and would only require more time to prepare. Oh, and of course, anyone too afraid of death is exempt from joining." Hearing that last line, we all know exactly who our main character was taunting. When it comes to holding a grudge, he's second to none. Aben was the next to voice his doubts. "That is hardly a convincing plan, with so few of us fighting the Thunderworm in a confined space. Can you guarantee we won't be annihilated instantly?" Rot's expression remained like stone as he answered. "That is a possibility, should things go terribly wrong. But if the strongest among us cannot defeat the dragons, then there is no point in fighting them at all." Hearing this, Roderick spoke up, voicing his agreement with Rot's logic. He's right. Victory isn't entirely out of reach, but it will require meticulous preparation. After a long, tense silence, Gim finally spoke from his side. Very well. The aide cried out in disbelief. Your Majesty? Gim rose from his throne, a single question echoing in his mind. Should he flee from the coming tragedy, or face it head-on? The look on this brilliant young hero's face gave him his answer. Perhaps this boy wouldn't just slay the Thunderworm, but change the fate of the entire southern continent. Gim strode toward him, leveling his sword and declaring, Rud Donatos, I will grant a full pardon to Damian Gray and Jode Graham, and I hereby appoint you as the leader of the Thunderworm subjugation force. Meanwhile, deep within the dungeons, Damian sat alone in a corner of his cell, lost in self-reflection. Suddenly, the sound of a door opening echoed through the darkness. The lock on the cell door clicked open. A soldier stepped inside. Damian Gray, you're being released. Damian stared in disbelief. What did you just say? Suddenly, a voice called his name, Damian. His eyes widened in shock as he recognized the man who had just walked in. It was Jero. Stunned, he could only manage a single word, grandfather. But Jero unexpectedly pulled him into a tight embrace. I am so sorry for everything. My selfish attempt to save you only caused you more pain. We must atone for those we've hurt, and for the young man who set us free. It's all over now. You can finally live. But Damian shook his head. No, grandfather. You are only trying to keep me alive. I'm the one who hurt everyone, including you. I can't live with my head held high under the weight of my sins. Jero hesitated for a moment, then spoke. That young man, Rud, he said. If you commit a sin while trying to save someone, you deserve a chance at forgiveness. So live on and make amends for your mistakes. The two wept in each other's arms. 1 month after the Myriad Forms dragon attacked Artium, the discovery of the Thunder Dragon's seal in the city's treasury was officially confirmed. Rud Donatos, the young hero and heir to the Ethereum arts, was credited with single-handedly defeating the Myriad Forms dragon. The Emperor appointed him as the new leader of the Thunder Dragon Reconnaissance Corps. Despite fierce protests from neighboring kingdoms, His Majesty refused to yield. He made an unprecedented decision, not only acknowledging the return of the 7 dragons, but intending to unseal them and seize the initiative. Hen read the rest of the article aloud to B. C. The Crown Prince has recognized Rud Donatos by granting him the title of hero. It seems he plans to fulfill his dream of reclaiming the South, a land lost in the old treaty, by strengthening his forces on the continent. The southern continent became a forbidden zone after the Myriad Forms dragon incident 10 years ago. Things are starting to snowball. This is so frustrating. B. C. Looked up. What is? Hen sighed, trying to explain. He takes on everything by himself. He should have just asked for help. If something had happened, he should have told us. Hen. Leonia put her fork down, her voice blunt. You're not strong enough. Rud nearly died that day, and we struggled just to fight off the small fry. Don't you get exhausted just from creating a single large fireball? Enraged, Hen slammed her foot against the table and yelled, I know that. Her voice trailed off, remembering Leonia's cold, one-word description of Rud's condition. Pathetic. Hen's anger deflated into sadness. It's pathetic. He helped me. He's the reason I found the cure for my sister. I owe him so much, but I can't repay him. I'm just... B. C. Cut her off gently. Don't overthink it, Hen. It's actually very simple. We're still weak. We have to learn from this and do whatever it takes to get stronger. That's the only way we'll be able to help Rud when he truly needs it. Elsewhere, Jeremy held the same newspaper with a smirk. Just as I predicted, the Crown Prince is much easier to handle than the Emperor. He didn't know the full story, but Damian Gray and Jero Graham received no official reprimand. They walked away from that disaster with nothing more than a few scratches. It was your doing, wasn't it? Young hero Donatos? At that moment, Rud's face was a mask of pure fury as he roared, Hero my ass! Without another word, he drove his fist straight into Jeremy's jaw. The impact sent him flying several meters. Rud's voice was ice. Don't make other people clean up your messes, you bastard. Did you really think you could start a catastrophe like that and just walk away clean? I want to knock all your teeth out, but unfortunately, there's something I need to confirm first. Rudd's rage was palpable as he grabbed Jeremy by the collar without mercy. He snarled, his face inches from Jeremy's. How did you know Professor Damien was holding the heart of the Myriad Forms dragon? Despite the blow, Jeremy just smiled. I've had a keen eye since I was a child. Rudd's temper flared again. Are you trying to die? The smile vanished from Jeremy's face. He brushed Rudd's hand from his collar. I'm being serious. My family possesses a special set of eyes. It's why our vision is so exceptional, and why we can perceive the true nature of things, especially when observing the flow of mana. Damien Gray's mana flow was chaotic. It was pooling around his neck instead of his heart. I wasn't entirely sure, so I confirmed my suspicions by looking into his background. Jero Graham's grandson suffered from mana sensitivity at a young age, and awoke in a hospital sometime after the Myriad Forms dragon subjugation. That's the reason the professor earned the nickname, the Predator. Rudd's voice was laced with fury. So you manipulated the professor to kill himself? Jeremy just let out a loud laugh, shamelessly admitting, I did. But his little attempt failed, and he almost died. If only he'd used his brain, or had the guts to just run away. Seeing him go off on a tangent, Rudd cut him off sharply. Stop playing games with me. So you could expose the professor and play the hero? With those words, Rude's hand met Jeremy's cheek in a resounding slap. Jeremy's crazed laughter didn't stop. Yes, I admit, your plan was far better than anything I could have imagined, but I never wanted to be a hero. I only wanted to witness a hero's story, a chance to observe a hero's life with my own two eyes. Just like the first hero, Van, you, Rudd, are destined for greatness. You will slay the 7 dragons and embark on a magnificent adventure. And at the end of it all, you will become a legend. Just being by your side would be enough for him, even if he couldn't be of much help. As the hero's companion, you will rewrite that legend together. That was his ultimate goal. Seeing him lost in his beautiful fantasy, Rudd decided to shatter it completely. He had it all wrong. I don't give a damn about becoming a hero. Everything you read in the papers was just stuff they made up to sell more copies. In fact, if I had a choice, I wouldn't want to be in this position at all. As he spoke, Rudd thought to himself, now, he finally understood. He understood why Jeremy in his past life was always so resentful towards him. He was the hero's companion. But was that the only reason? He failed to realize one critical thing. His brother was a near-perfect hero, but he wasn't flawless. He was human. He made mistakes and poor judgments when exhausted. He was always pushing his body to the absolute limit, but people still complained and grew irritated with his brother. At that moment, Rudd spoke again. You want me to take your place, a place where I'm forced to be the royal family's chosen one, shouldering all their hatred while we find a way to save the world. What is this delusional maniac even rambling about? I guess everyone has to deal with a few crazies in their life. If you like it so much, you can do it yourself. With that, Rudd turned and left the room. Jeremy reached out a hand, pleading, No, don't, he said, full of regret. Then he desperately grabbed Rudd's leg, begging, Please, Rudd, you have to be the hero. Seeing this, Rudd exploded. He roared, Are you insane? But then, the man suddenly said, Actually, I'm from Atun. Rudd stopped, surprised by the name. He repeated, Atun? The kingdom that shares borders with the Apia Empire, the Mohen Kingdom, the Magic Kingdom, and the Spirit Kingdom of Bika, the central trade hub for all 4 nations. But did you know? In reality, Atun is a place where money and crime go hand in hand. Hearing that, he thought, How could I not know? That's where I spent my days as a mercenary. He never imagined that the man he thought was a capital noble actually came from a place like Atun. Jeremy continued, The Devil family is a fallen house. My father and I were the only ones left, but in the end, my father was murdered. He wasn't looking for sympathy. His father wasn't a good person to begin with. He was simply inheriting what was left. Suddenly, Rudd kicked him right in the face, snarling, Who asked for your life story? But Jeremy stubbornly kept talking. He would tell the truth. After his father died, he went to the basement to sort through his assets and found an old chest. It was preserved by magic. To his father, who'd spent every last coin on women and wine, it was probably just junk. But the chest appeared to be several hundred years old. Inside was an old book, a few paintings, sheet music, and a manuscript. There was even a diary from the chest's original owner. The diary's author was named Alan Devil. Just then, the Spirit King appeared. She said, "Alan Devil, isn't that the guy who used to follow Van around?" Jeremy pressed on. "It was my ancestor's journal. Written 700 years ago, it chronicles the greatest hero of all. The diary in my basement is the record of the very first dragon slayer." Rudd's hand clenched into a tight fist. His pupils constricted in shock at Jeremy's words. The man looked up at Rudd. Jeremy continued his story with a twisted, almost unhinged smile. "Alan Devil, my ancestor, was a traveling bard who followed the first dragon slayer everywhere. The journal recorded every single detail of their journey. It was an unbelievable record." Rudd gritted his teeth and turned to the Spirit King. "Is something that ridiculous actually real?" The Spirit King sighed. Sadly, yes." Rudd put a hand on his hip, striking a supermodel pose as he approached Jeremy, whose mind was already illustrating the tale. The hero who saved the world, and the bard who sang his story. It was happening right before my very eyes. I, the descendant of the man who wrote this journal. Isn't this fate? And the sealed thunder flash dragon, hidden in Artium. As he said this, Jeremy clutched his hands to his chest. "You never expected it to be in the treasury, did you? Is this how Gerard de Graham ensured his grandson's secret would be buried forever?" Rudd's brow furrowed deeply. It was clear he didn't want to hear another word. "Rudd, this is destiny. It's the will of the heavens." Jeremy's grating words echoed in his ears. Rudd's face darkened, his mood plummeting. Seeing his opponent's silence, Jeremy pushed his luck and continued to drone on. "I can be useful. I've trained myself relentlessly, and I know exactly what it takes to be a hero's companion. You can do anything you want with me. My eyes, my heart, anything at all. What should I do? Just shut up." Rudd's deep voice boomed, cutting off Jeremy's rambling sentence mid-thought. Rudd ran a hand through his hair in frustration. He thought angrily, "This is getting out of control. He's just a clever, crazy bastard who knows nothing about the sealing stone. So then who?" An image of the sealing stone flashed in Rudd's mind. What kind of lunatic would place the Thunderflash Dragon sealing stone in the Artium treasury? The stone's location wasn't mentioned in any known record. Trying to retrieve it would absolutely trigger the security system. The spirit mind technique made one thing clear. If a new item suddenly appeared in the storage treasury, it would definitely be noticed. The only way to keep it safe was to place it within the Artium vault itself. After a moment of internal struggle, Rot finally asked Jeremy, "That diary, does it have any specific details about the Thunderflash Dragon, like a sealing technique, or where it's sealed, or maybe even how to deal with it?" Jeremy seemed caught off guard by the sudden question, but he answered quickly, I don't know the specifics. There's nothing in there about fighting or sealing. That kind of information is far too dangerous for others to see." Rot tilted his head slightly, leveling a cold, dead-eyed stare at Jeremy that silently demanded the truth. "Really?" Rot's affectionate gaze made Jeremy squirm as he stammered, "Why, yes. The diary is at my house, so I can't show you right now. If you don't believe me, you can see for yourself. I live all alone in that empty house. The diary is in the basement. I'll give you the key." Rot simply crossed his arms, listening intently as Jeremy remained kneeling before him. Jeremy placed a hand over his heart, his plea now filled with a raw desperation. "Please, acknowledge me as the hero's companion." Rot sighed heavily and planted his foot on Jeremy's shoulder, his expression menacing. "Jeremy, this is the last time I'm telling you. I have absolutely no interest in becoming a hero. Even if the royal family wills it, it's the Pope who ultimately acknowledges a hero, and that title isn't granted to those without proper credentials." The foot on Jeremy's shoulder pressed down harder. Rot's patience was wearing thinner by the second. "The only reason you're still alive is because of those foolish eyes of yours. They might help me kill the dragons. which means you can't run your mouth about this in public. Rot held out a hand as if collecting a debt. If you want to live, you will obey me. Understood? Jeremy's face broke into a wide smile. Of course. He obediently offered the key to Rot with both hands. The scene changes. The sky is clear, the sun shining brilliantly. Rot met with his master for a drink and a chat. So, are you saying the person who sealed the Thunder Dragon just left it behind? His master asked. Rot took a slow sip of water, answering deliberately. That is the speculation. Rot's master raised an eyebrow, his own drink untouched on the table. The inheritor of the sky gazer technique is doubting his own ancestors? Rot put his glass down, retorting immediately. But even you were hesitant, master. The understanding slowly dawned on his master's face. But the more answers they found, the more questions arose. So, the hero Van A didn't kill the 7 dragons. He only sealed them. But why didn't they pass down the location of the seals or the methods to their descendants? The hero Van A must have been impossibly strong to defeat the 7 dragons, beings who treated humans like playthings. The weak could only run. They fled north, hiding in the great mountains. In the end, humanity escaped the dragon's tyranny, but the danger was never truly gone. After a long, thoughtful silence, Rot's master came to a conclusion. This was all the will of our ancestors. Rot turned his head away, annoyed by his master's reasoning. Let's change the subject, he said flatly. Rot picked up his glass again, continuing their conversation. The Academy has recovered quite well, and Professor Arthur has been announced as the Academy's new headmaster. Will you be attending the inauguration? His master scoffed. That bald man is the new headmaster of Artium? Live long enough and you see everything, I suppose. Arthur told me you requested a leave of absence. Rot licked his lips and answered casually. Yes, I plan to finish my first year, which will take another 6 months. During that time, I'll complete my second-year courses and then take a full year off to prepare for the subjugation of the Thunderflash Dragon. The headmaster told me he fully supports my decision. Rot remembered the headmaster's overwhelming enthusiasm. Because of this incident, I will launch a full-scale investigation. When the vault is opened, take anything you desire. Oh. Yes, sir. Rot continued his explanation. After that, I plan to spend 2 years interning at various guilds. His master was taken aback by the plan. Interning at different guilds? Your plan seems remarkably thorough. That wasn't my original intention. Rot propped his cheek on his hand, a look of boredom on his face. But the master of the Moon Shadow Guild was more persistent than I anticipated. An image of Aben, the fiery guild master, flashed in Rot's mind. Don't you dare bring your personal affairs into this. Do you take me for a fool? Rot went on. His condition for letting me join the subjugation is a 1-year internship at his guild. His master's expression soured with disgust. What a ridiculously self-serving condition. I guess I'm just that charming. That's why they cling to me. So, what about your plans for the year after that? I'm heading for the Imperial Dragon-Slaying Corps, Roth thought to himself. After the Thunderflash Dragon comes the Black Dragon. The real challenges lie ahead. Roth's master gave him a knowing look. When you talk about the dragon-slaying army, do you mean Kree? Why are you looking at me like that? It's nothing. In that case, I'll have to head to Farama within 6 months. Provisions are the top priority, in preparation for the Thunder Flash Dragon subjugation. Roth stretched and agreed. That's right. The Grimson Tower sent me too. I'll be able to learn a thing or two. His master looked puzzled. Isn't it a bit late for you to be learning magic? Hey now, why are you being ageist, master? This little brat. Putting a hand behind his neck, Roth casually continued explaining his plan. I'm kidding. All right, I'll head to On first. The Phantom On. Why would you go to a den of scoundrels like that? I have something to check, Rudd answered calmly. It's about a certain something, in a certain basement, from the diary of an ancestor named Dihao. Meanwhile, in the Doveville residential district, a child frantically searched a room cluttered with chests. It's all just junk. The child cried out in frustration and turned to leave, ignoring the messy pile of papers they'd just created. A heavy shackle was locked around their ankle. 6 months later, on a beautiful day of falling snow, a sudden roar echoed through the air, like that of a powerful monster. But it wasn't a beast. It was just Hennis's sneeze. "Hennis, it's the last day. Are you still studying instead of going home?" Although Black's handsome face remained perfectly calm, inwardly, he was marveling at Hennis's uniquely powerful sneeze. With a stubborn glare, Hennis shot back. "Why do you care? You're staying here too, aren't you?" Black gently approached her, offering a cup of hopefully not poisoned water. "Drink this while you study." Hennis stared at him in disbelief, questioning him. Why the sudden thoughtfulness? "What's this?" Black gave Hennis a thumbs up. "It's boosting tea. One sip and you'll be wide awake. If you drink this tea while you train, your illness won't have time to." Before Black could finish, Hennis cut him off. "Don't bother." That single phrase was enough to bring the boy with a man's heart to tears. After Black left, Hennis returned to her serious research on the illness that was progressing all too well. She thought to herself that if she followed Rudd's advice and got help from the alchemy professor, then with enough time and effort, she could be cured. But would it be enough? Rudd said he'd be busy during the ceremony, but he helped me find a treatment method. It felt like he deliberately brought it up because he knew about her older sister. Fueled by curiosity, Hennis wondered how Ruth had so many magic potions on hand. It was as if he knew the Myriad forms dragon would appear. What if? Just as she was thinking, a cup of tea was suddenly shoved in her face. "Hey!" Hennis yelped in shock. "What was that for?" Rudd blinked, looking at Hennis with the innocence of a fawn. "What are you doing? Lost in thought?" Hennis, flustered, turned away and stammered, "Hey, you just startled me." Not a second later, Hennis whipped back around to confront Rudd. "What's wrong with your hand? And wasn't that tea for me?" Rudd calmly savored the taste of the tea. "Nope, I'm drinking it." The moment he finished, Hennis shouted, "Then what are you even doing here? Are you trying to start something?" Ignoring her, Rudd walked toward the door. "Don't just play around, and while I'm gone, make sure you study hard." Hennis felt like she was being toyed with, fuming with rage. "I'm already studying." But looking at Rudd, she couldn't hold back the questions in her heart. "Aren't you cold?" "I drank the boosting tea. Not cold at all. Want some?" "I'd rather freeze to death." Hennis felt that Rudd knew everything, and that somehow he possessed an unbelievable power for someone his age. She reminded herself, "I have to be there when Rudd needs me. Just being by his side is enough." At that thought alone, Hennis's face turned as red as a tomato. She gripped her hands, trying to calm herself. "I have to study. Let's study. Just you wait. I'll be there soon." At that same moment, in another place, Lenia was heading toward them. "I will catch up." In the bone-chilling air, Rudd couldn't help but exclaim, "Ah, it's freezing." Flora, the Spirit King, was puzzled. "The royal family gave you a magic cloak, and you're still complaining about the cold?" Rudd frowned, showing his dissatisfaction. "What a person really needs is a fur cloak." The Spirit King took the chance to tease him. "Rudd is the one contracted with a Spirit King. Don't you feel any shame? Face the cold with dignity." Rudd replied, "Maybe it's the season, but I feel like I think more clearly when winter makes me happy." As he spoke, the snowman next to Rudd suddenly moved. Who are you talking to?" The voice nearly scared Rudd out of his skin. He wondered what in the world was going on, but then he saw. It was Lion. Had she been out in the snow this whole time? She shivered. "You're leaving today." "But I didn't know when." Rudd was utterly dumbfounded. "You've been standing here all day? Are you insane? Do you have no survival skills?" Rudd didn't even try to argue, simply admitting, "Yes, she's probably insane." Seeing the beautiful girl trembling, Rudd acted gallantly, wrapping a scarf around her neck while grumbling. "You know you catch colds easily, so you did this on purpose, didn't you?" Lion's mood soured as she asked, "Would you rather I suffocate than catch a cold?" Rudd replied nonchalantly, "You can still talk, can't you?" Lion then asked expectantly how he knew she got sick so easily. Rudd recalled a memory from his past life, when she fell into an icy lake fighting the Fin Dragon G, her face pale and shivering. It was hilarious. I laughed. So you threw me into the lake and I almost died. Hearing that, Lion felt that whatever happened to Rudd, he probably deserved it. Rudd's next journey began, leading to new places. This time, his destination was the capital of the Ibris Trade Kingdom. It was a half-hour carriage ride from the capital to the academy. From the border to the capital's transfer gate was another 3 hours. This capital city was a bustling metropolis at the heart of the continent, but its brilliant light only illuminated the city center. In the outskirts, the slums were constantly tormented by hunger. As he passed through one such area, the people there stared at him with incredibly strange eyes. Just then, Flora the Spirit King spoke up. Rudd, just admit it. Rudd didn't quite understand. Admit what? The Spirit King continued, You know that even with a map in your hands, you'll still get lost. And though Rudd held a map, he still couldn't understand it. And he was, in fact, lost. How could I possibly get lost in this god-forsaken wasteland? But he refused to accept it. My lord, what are you saying? You know my sense of direction is impeccable. The Spirit King simply stated the facts from their journey, like the time he was lost in a snow mountain or wandered a forest for an entire week. Ruth clutched the map, his eye twitching. Am I crazy enough to mistake a volcanic dragon's mouth for a cave? But the Spirit King showed no mercy, twisting the knife in Ruth's wounded pride. That's right. It wasn't that his sense of direction was bad. He was just an idiot. Ruth shouted in anger, trying to argue, but honestly, it really did look like a cave. Pacing back and forth, the Spirit King began to lament. At this rate, when will we ever find the right path? And to make matters worse, some fool who doesn't know his place is tailing us from behind. Just what are this guy's intentions? Too bad for him, Ruth had already noticed. He told the Spirit King, Don't worry. I might not know the way, but he probably does. A moment later, the man stepped before them, oozing menace. Hey kid, I'm sure you know this area is part of a toll town, right? You could lose your head just for passing through here. His goal was obvious, simple extortion. But running into Ruth, the man who slayed a vicious dragon? This guy's luck had run out for the next 8 lifetimes. The thug continued, I'm a generous man, so I'll let you live. All I'll do is strip you of everything you own. But before he could even move, Ruth's presence froze him in place. An ambush? This kid is impossibly fast. Ruth pulled out a piece of paper. Where is the Deville estate? The man broke out in a cold sweat, trying to keep his cool. You damn brat. Are you an idiot? Do you have any idea who I am? Ruth didn't even bother to look at him, his eyes filled with contempt. And who are you supposed to be? The man started to pull out his axe. You're going to regret those foolish words, kid. He charged forward, axe raised high. How dare you speak to Von Veal, the executioner of the Massif Mercenary Corps, like that? A truly pathetic display. Before he could do anything, Ruth ended the fight with a single kick. The Massif Mercenary Corps? You mean them asterisk? For the first time, the man knew true fear. He tried to lift his axe, but it was useless. How was he not even budging? Ruth spoke. I remember that name now. I owed them a small favor once, a long time ago. If we're talking seniority, I guess that makes me a veteran. The man's face turned pale. He finally understood. He had definitely picked a fight with the wrong person. Ruth cut straight to the point. Are you going to take me there or not? In the end, the man had no choice but to lead the way. After a short walk, they stopped before a gate. Ruth glanced around and asked, This is it? We've just been walking in circles. With that, he let the man run away. After all, he was no longer useful. There was no point in keeping him around. The Spirit King asked Ruth, The Massif Mercenary Corps? You know of them? Ruth replied, Before I came to Aram, I used to be a mercenary myself. They have an impressive name, but in reality, they're just a chaotic mob of amateurs. He placed a hand on the iron gate and continued, Speaking of which, I wonder if the leader of that ragtag bunch is still alive? The iron gates began to swing open. As he walked in, he mused to himself, Looks like he's still kicking. Maybe I'll pay a visit to an old acquaintance one of these days. He pushed the door open to find a desolate, abandoned interior. I guess I won't be needing a key then? He summoned his sword from thin air, cautiously surveying his surroundings as he followed a staircase down into a basement. When he reached the bottom, a shocking sight met his eyes. A corpse. Before him was the body of an elf, looking deathly pale, and its body was covered in strange marks. He thought, "Is this an elf?" The Spirit King appeared at his side and spoke. "It's still alive, but it's slowly turning into a corpse. I've heard that enslaving their kind has become common in Ibris." But Ruth had a different theory. "I think the leg has rotted away because of a curse. It's already too late to save them." The Spirit King realized. A dark wizard caused this. It's a miracle she's still alive at all. Suddenly, an attack came from behind, but thanks to his protective circle, it was completely useless. It appeared to be another elf. "Let go of my mother." Ruth sized up the attacker. "A child?" The young elf summoned another magic circle, screaming, "Don't touch my mother!" A massive explosion erupted, blasting Ruth backward. But Ruth himself was completely unaffected. The boy stared at him. "You perverted bastard! A misfire! Why aren't my spirits obeying me?" Ruth calmly walked toward him. "It seems you understand the grave consequences of challenging a superior." The Spirit King then reported to him, "Ruth, that young elf is afflicted with the same curse." Ruth spoke to the Spirit King. "I know, but the fact that she can still jump around like that means she's trying to endure the pain." As he spoke, he drew his sword and advanced on the little elf. "You'll be dead soon, but count yourself lucky that you met me." The terrified child saw him coming and instinctively screamed, "Mommy!" The shriek nearly shattered Ruth's eardrums. Ruth pointed his sword at the shackle on the little elf's leg. "My ears are ringing. Be quiet." In an instant, a surge of power flowed out, shattering the chains and the curse along with them. The little elf could feel the difference instantly. "I think I've been healed." After finishing, he grumbled, "Good thing that curse was reversible. It's the only reason you're still breathing. A curse of that level is hardly a challenge for me." With that, he turned away, leaving the little elf completely stunned. Thinking he was the master of the house, she asked, "Sir, is this your home? Are you going to sell me somewhere?" But Ruth was busy searching for a few books, replying distractedly, "Why would I sell you? What use could you possibly have? This isn't my house, and your situation is none of my concern. Don't bother me. Just leave. As soon as I find the book I need, I'm gone." The Elf King knew he was just teasing, his behavior a stubborn front. Even after breaking her curse, he must have been feeling conflicted. Ruth complained, "So noisy." The little elf girl found a book and held it out to him, saying, "Sir, could this perhaps be the book you are searching for?" It was a brown tome with strange patterns. Ruth irritably told the girl not to bother him. "Wait a second. You." The little elf suddenly spoke. "It can reverse curses, can't it?" As she spoke, she ran towards the fireplace. She held the book over the flames, making her demand, "Please, I beg you, save my mother." Although slavery had been abolished on the continent long ago, her mother looked incredibly frail, as if she would draw her last breath at any moment. But because everyone coveted the elves' beauty and enchanting songs, they were easy targets for illegal slave traders. Ren clung to her mother's arm, letting her mother lean heavily against her. She tried her best not to cry, her face a mask of misery. To avoid being captured and enslaved, they hid deep within the forests, avoiding all contact with other races, and lived a simple life. Their lifespans were long and their growth was slow, taking 150 years to reach adulthood. Ruth looked at the two before him. They had left the spirit world, their cradle of life, long ago to live in this one. Perhaps that was why, at the moment an elf breathes their last. Her mother mumbled, "Ren, my dearest Ren, it's all right. I will always." Ren looked up at her mother, who was slowly turning transparent. Their bodies and souls dissolve without a trace, returning to the spirit world. Her mother's body vanished with her final words, "Be by your side." Ren closed her eyes. "If only we had escaped that hell a little sooner. If only I had grown up faster." She turned back with a sad smile. "My mother protected me her entire life, but I couldn't protect her even once. But it's okay. She said she'd always be with me, so I can't keep crying forever. Ruth remained silent. He thought, in my previous life, the elves chose to flee and hide rather than fight against the dragon clan. They chose a peaceful life until the very end, and in the end, they still died. To be frank, I don't like their race. But from now on, you'll have to rely on yourself. Ruth gently stroked her head and said softly, you can't just cry and wait for someone to save you forever. However, there are times when we just have to cry it all out. He stared off into the distance as he spoke. Ren trembled, clutching the hem of her clothes as tears streamed down onto her hands. After a while, they both turned to go back. Sir, the girl began hesitantly, my name is Ren Nasa of the Nastia tribe. I beg your pardon for the intrusion. But right now, I have nowhere to go to hide from the hunter's eyes. Ren shyly glanced up at Ruth. So, may I please stay here for just a little while longer? I promise I won't be a bother to you at all. I'll do anything you ask, so please. Ruth looked up. Homeless elven slaves were prime targets for those hunters. There was no way they would let a little girl like her go so easily. Besides, this was probably the only place she had left. He spoke again. Come to think of it, you attacked me with magic. Startled, Ren rubbed her sore nose and looked at him. He continued, then teach me magic. Hearing this, the girl quickly refused. I can't. I'm only a second-tier mage. Besides, you seem plenty strong even without magic, Ruth replied. The more you know, the better. And since I have to learn from the very basics, a day or two probably won't be enough. Just teach me the fundamentals for now. In return, I'll find you a place to stay, and stop calling me sir. This body is only 17 years old, you know? Ren was silent, but she was deeply moved. She asked, Then what should I call you? He answered as he walked away. Just use my name, Ruth. Ren Nasa. She ran after him. Yes, Sir Ruth. Ren sat cross-legged on a wooden crate and announced, All right, let's begin the first lesson. She puffed out her chest declaratively. From now on, I will be your teacher, so please behave accordingly. Ruth propped his chin on his hand, thinking, There's no way she's truly okay after just one night. She's just trying to act tough. He answered, Fine. Ren cleared her throat and said, To put it simply, magic is just like painting a picture. But instead of using paint, we use mana. You create a spell by deciding the nature and properties of the mana. Is it like choosing colors when you're painting? No. The difference between magic and painting is that you can alter the spell's formula as many times as you want, even after you've already completed it. The girl manifested a spell and continued. Naturally, as the magic circle level increases, arranging the spell becomes more complex, and modifications become much more difficult. But there's a rumor that an 8th circle archmage can freely construct and modify spells regardless of the magic circle. Ren asked again, What circle do you think you are? Roth replied with a dejected sigh. I don't have anything like the circles you're talking about. Ren was stunned. What? Roth held out his hand. Because my mana resides right here. Ren shot up from her seat. Is that? She asked in disbelief. Could that be the legendary Heaven's Eye technique? Passed down by the first hero? How did you obtain such a power? Roth clenched his fist and replied calmly. Let's just say I'm exceptionally talented. Is the teacher allowed to get off topic during class? Ren blushed, flustered. Right. She scurried over to a wooden crate and continued. Anyway, it seems you have more than enough mana, and you don't seem to have any issues controlling or using it. So let's move right on to the practical application. Ren put on a pair of glasses and held up 3 fingers, beginning her lecture. The 3 elements of magic are mana, formula, and incantation. To put it simply, you release a sufficient amount of mana, construct a spell formula, and chant the incantation to manifest it. Although, during that process, you must stabilize the mana, reconstruct it step by step, create the formula, and then manifest the spell. Roth held out both hands. Mana, technique, spell formula, he chanted in his mind. Incantation. The spell circle appeared instantly, causing Ren to gasp. She clapped her hands in praise. Sir, you truly have a gift for magic. That magic circle is absolutely perfect. To think you could master it on your first try is— Before Ren could finish, Roth cut in. Chanting the incantation takes too long. She put her hands on her hips, aghast. Too long. Even a talented sorcerer would find it difficult to cast that in under 2 minutes, Roth retorted. The guys I know don't even need to chant. She took off her glasses and crossed her arms. This is only your first lesson. It's far too early for you to attempt something like that. It's a given that while incantations are an aid to shape magic, manifesting a spell purely through imagination is only possible. If you've reached the level of the White Flame Queen— Roth leaned his head against a tree. Should I just give up? Ren immediately stopped him. No. I told you. You have a gift for this, didn't I? Manifesting your very first spell in such a short time is no easy feat. Roth replied, but attacking with sword aura is way faster than using a magic spell. The girl desperately tried to stop him. It's still too early to give up. I'll help you no matter what it takes. Roth refused. No. You really don't have to go to such lengths, the girl replied. There are countless amazing books inside this house. I'll search through them, study them, and find the right textbooks for you. So please just wait here. Roth crossed his arms, watching her run off. She's trying so hard. The Spirit King's voice suddenly emerged. That child could have chosen another path, but instead, she chose to fight for her life with all her might. Roth was surprised. Huh. This is the first I've heard from you since yesterday's incident. The Spirit King replied, Roth, magic is imagination itself. I shall lend you a hand. Now, try again. Roth held out his hands. It's useless, no matter how much I rack my brain. Manifesting magic without an incantation is impossible. Before he could finish his sentence, he was stunned to see magic forming in his hands. At the same time, Foa spoke. Activating magic with imagination support. If I assist you with the spell's formula and visualization, you shouldn't have any trouble controlling the mana, correct? Roth grinned. So that's how it works. Sharing imagination. I thought you were just going to whisper in my mind that the secret was in my head all along. He gave a wicked smile. Are you doing this just to appease me? Because you couldn't answer my question earlier? Foa hesitated. Not exactly. Roth looked at the magic in his hands. Whatever. If you're offering your help, I'll gladly accept. Just then, Ren returned, carrying a massive stack of books. Sir Roth, I've found the magic textbooks. Roth was still casting the spell when he turned around. Oh, you're back, teacher. The girl saw the scene before her and was struck speechless with shock. What in the world happened while I was gone? What are you doing? Roth answered, I'm practicing the spell over and over to get used to it. I think I can probably manifest it as a 3-dimensional shape instead of just a flat plane. Ren's eyes widened in shock. What? Just what kind of madness are you planning? She scrambled to his side. If you lose control for even a second. But her warning came too late. A crushing wave of magic slammed Roth right in the face. He let out a defeated groan. This is the end for me. A cold laugh escaped Ren's lips. Nothing left to regret now, is there? No reason left for tears. 2 weeks later. Inside the lavish mansion of the millionaire, Julian. So that bastard really has an elf girl following him around? Yes, sir. I saw her with my own eyes. Director, I've tailed him for days now. But I never realized he was that warrior from the reports. He's the captain of America's Mercenary Legion. Unthinkable. No one is allowed to touch my most precious treasure. My most hated foe should be there as well. The merchant lord, Julian, sat seething from his high seat. Bonson, if you are my loyal dog, then you will crush him. Roth Donatos. Of course, my lord. No need to get so worked up. He and I have our own score to settle. Banson, I don't know what your history with that man is, but you're facing a highly skilled opponent. He is officially recognized by the royal family, and his fame has been spread by the media. So be careful. The dark mage Heyman also chimed in with a warning, for Roth was not someone to be trifled with. I don't buy into those ridiculous rumors, warrior. How amusing. That man is nothing but a psychotic killer. It seemed Banson completely underestimated Roth, seeing him as just some mentally unstable foe. As he watched him depart, Haymond could only shake his head in weary frustration. He never listens to me. Haymond, is he really that strong? Surely the rumors have greatly exaggerated his power. But no matter how powerful he is, you have no need to worry. We will have everything prepared before Banson even arrives. Meanwhile, at the Duview residence, I'm getting the hang of this. Even a first circle spell is incredibly useful once you've mastered it, and can use it flawlessly in combat. I need to learn higher level magic from a higher circle mage. Just as Roth stepped outside, a voice called out from behind him. What are you planning on destroying today? No matter how much I clean, this whole area just ends up a mess again. And please don't ruin the clothes I bought for you. Today, just focus on studying calmly. Roth sensed a massive surge of energy coming from behind the girl, dodging just as a powerful blast obliterated the very spot where they stood. In a matter of seconds, Banson had arrived. Damn it, that fool. Be careful. He's a true six-circle mage. An attack with that much power would leave nothing but dust. It would be a problem if that elf died. The little girl appeared as the smoke began to clear. Sir Roth, what happened? That sword. Isn't that the blade that reversed my mother's curse? I don't have a single scratch on me. Did the sword take all the damage? Then, what about Sir Roth? Seeing the girl, Banson called out, You're still alive? Where's your mother? Let me go, you monster. He struck the small child and cursed her. Shut your mouth. Don't interrupt when an adult is speaking, you troublesome brat. Where is your mother? Speak. The elf girl struggled against Banson, but refused to say a word, even as she weakened. You will never catch my mother. She has already returned to the forest. Damn it, you're so annoying. Fine, let me ask you something else. Where is Roth Donatos? Is he dead yet? But before Banson could stomp on the girl, Roth appeared behind him. Why don't you answer? Did that bastard return to the forest too? So there you are, you treacherous little rat. Sir, the little girl was gravely injured. As Banson continued his assault, Roth saw it all and spoke. Don't come over here. Just stay put. It's a flesh-corroding curse. Do you need a healing potion? Thanks to the overlapping artifacts, I just got a few scratches. The curse has already stopped, so I'm fine. Roth, with his famously sharp tongue, held nothing back. He opened his mouth and immediately laid into Banson. You people barge in here and start barking nonsense. You're nothing but a bunch of classless thugs. Oh, his sword is still here. It's Roth. Did he already grab it? I didn't even see him take it back. Classless? You bastard. How dare you insult the Masty Mercenary Corps? Humiliated, Banson's men furiously charged forward. A bomb explosion? That definitely wasn't magic. He's here. Aha, so everything I heard about you was a lie. How dare you act so arrogant in front of an elite squad like this? But his overconfidence was short-lived as Roth landed several blows, slapping him across the face. Even Banson was stunned. What? Captain, behind you! This time, it's magic. Don't be afraid. They're just first-circle magic missiles. But why are there so many of them? And the explosion is obscuring our vision. It makes the trajectory impossible to predict. You fools, open your eyes. You're the one who needs to open their eyes. It's been a while, hasn't it, Banson? Roth pressed his sword to Banson's neck, leaving him completely unable to move.